Hello everyone, welcome to Deepti's biology class. This is the second video lecture of chapter Life Processes of class 10. So we are starting with the process nutrition. Nutrition is the process where energy required to carry out different life process is obtained. So depending on the mode of obtaining nutrition, organisms are mainly classified as autotrophs and heterotrophs. Organisms are classified as autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs can prepare their own food from simple inorganic sources such as carbon dioxide and water. Example is green plants and some other bacteria. And the second mode of nutrition is heterotrophs. Heterotrophs organisms cannot synthesize their own food. That's why they have to depend on other organisms. So what they obtain? They obtain complex organic substances for nutrition and it will be broken down into simpler one through the process of digestion. So examples are animals and fungi. This is one of the important chart you should learn. Nutrition is divided into two categories, autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition or heterotrophs. Now heterotrophic nutrition is divided into three categories, which are they? Saprophytic, parasitic and holozoic mode of nutrition. So in this particular video lecture, except holozoic, all these things we will be discussing in detail. So once again, nutrition is divided into two, autotrophic and heterotrophic. Heterotrophic nutrition is further classified into saprophytic nutrition, parasitic nutrition and holozoic nutrition. So let's start with autotrophic nutrition. In autotrophic nutrition, organisms are able to make its own nourishment using either sunlight or chemicals. So if those organisms they are able to prepare its own food through sunlight, we call them as photoautotrophs. Some bacteria are there. They derive their energy from the chemicals. So we call them as chemoautotrophs. So what are autotrophs? They are capable to make their own food by the process. Mainly if they are using sunlight, we call them as photosynthetic organisms, or else we call them as photoautotrophs. If they are using chemicals, we call them as chemoautotrophs. Now, all green plants are autotrophic and they use light as the source of energy for the synthesis of food by the process photosynthesis. So there are three steps which are given to summarize the process of photosynthesis. This is very important one. So what are the events? The question can be, what are the events occur during the process of photosynthesis? The first step is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. So which part of the green plant absorbs sunlight? That is chlorophyll. Now the second step is important one, conversion of light energy into chemical energy and splitting of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. So in the second step there are two things given. One is conversion of light energy into chemical energy and the second one is splitting of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. So what is the meaning of this? Light energy is converted into chemical energy. We know that light energy is unusable form of energy. This unusable form of energy is converted into usable form such as ATP. We call it as chemical energy. So conversion of light energy into chemical energy meaning is that unusable form of energy is converted into usable form. Second, what happens? Splitting of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. So we know that during photosynthesis, oxygen is released. So from where does this oxygen come from? The oxygen is coming from the water, not from carbon dioxide, because we know that CO2 and H2O, in both oxygen is there, right? So from where this oxygen comes from? This oxygen comes from water, not from carbon dioxide. One of the important question. And the third step is reduction of carbon dioxide into carbohydrate. These carbohydrates are nothing but the glucose molecules. So remember the three steps which takes place during the process of photosynthesis. What happens? Light energy is converted into chemical energy after absorbing. Who absorbs? Chlorophyll absorbs it, and splitting of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. Later, reduction of carbon dioxide into carbohydrate, that is glucose. Now, the green plants, from where do they get all these materials for the process? They absorb water from the soil. Carbon dioxide enters from the atmosphere through stomata. Sunlight is absorbed by chlorophyll and other part, green part of the plants. This is the overall equation. So this is a balanced equation. Carbon dioxide combines with oxygen in presence of sunlight. Who absorbs sunlight? That is chlorophyll. It forms glucose and oxygen. So this is the glucose or carbohydrate. So where from this oxygen comes? This oxygen is coming from the water, not from the carbon dioxide. So here carbon dioxide, CO2 is the carbon dioxide, H2O water, then the glucose formula and oxygen. That just they have expanded the terms, right? So this is also important portion. Since we have discussed carbon dioxide comes in and oxygen goes out of the plant through stomata, let's see the structure of stomata. So this is the stomata which is in the opened stage and this is in the closed stage. These yellow color structures are the guard cells. These guard cells decide whether to open or close the stomata. This opening is termed as stoma. So stoma is the opening. This opening is stoma and is protected by or is covered by these kidney or bean shaped guard cells. When these guard cells are filled with water, it becomes swollen, it stretches and the stomata opens. When the guard cells do not have water, what happens? It shrinks. After shrinkage, this closes. So let's see, stomata are the pores on the leaves that help in exchange of gases. They are mostly found on the underside of the leaf. Why? If it is on the upper side, there is a chance of transpiration. What is transpiration? Evaporation of water in the form of vapors from the leaf. If upper side of the leaf, if there is stomata, chance of transpiration is more because it is exposed to the sunlight. To prevent that, lower surface of the leaf is having stomata so that transpiration is kept under control. Each stoma, what is stoma? Opening of the stomata is guarded by guard cells which control the opening and closing of the pore. The water content of the guard cell is responsible for their function. What function? Opening and closing of the stomata is controlled by the presence of water in the guard cells. So let's start. So we have discussed now autotrophic nutrition. Let's see heterotrophic nutrition. Under that, the first one is parasitic nutrition. Some organisms feed on the expense of other organisms. Or simple way, if we are talking about, if any organism take the nourishment from other organism without killing it, we call it as parasite, or that mode of nutrition is called parasitic mode of nutrition. So some organism feed on the expense of other organism and in turn causing harm. This is called parasitic mode of nutrition. These organisms live on the body or in the body of a host organism and derive the nutrients directly from the body of the host. Suppose if this is an organism, we call it as host. The one which lives inside, we call it as the parasite. On the host, whatever nutrients are there, all will be absorbed by this parasite and parasite causes harmful effect to this host, right? So examples are leech and cuscuta. Cuscuta is a plant parasite. So there can be a question, give an example of plant parasite. If you see in this image, you can see there is a green color plant. On this, some thread-like structures, right? These thread-like structures are actually the cuscuta. On which plant this cuscuta wraps around and that plant will die. Why? Because cuscuta takes all the nutrients from the main host plant. So example, this green thread-like structure is the cuscuta, which is a plant-like structure that grow as a parasite on other plant. And this is the leech which suck blood from the other organism. Both are parasites. Now when we come to next type of nutrition, that is saprophytic nutrition. Some organisms feed on dead and decaying organic matter. This mode of nutrition we call it as saprophytic nutrition. If you look at this image, these are some of the saprophytes. These are mainly fungus. Majority of the fungus are saprophytic in nature. They take nourishment from these dead and decaying matter. The food is partially digested outside the body and then it is absorbed. So how this saprophytes take the nutrient? Suppose imagine that this is a dead body and this one is the saprophyte. Saprophyte digest this food outside the body of them and they absorb the nutrients back. Like what happens in our body? We eat the food, we digest inside and we absorb the nutrients, right? But in case of saprophytes, they release some chemicals out of their body and that chemical digests the dead and decaying matter, and these digested matter later they absorbs, right? Examples are fungi and saprophytes. So what are saprophytes? These are living on dead and decaying matter and they are taking nourishment from them. Till now we have seen that nutrition is divided into different category, which are they autotrophic and heterotrophic. Under autotrophic, what are the things were there? Autotrophic nutrition we have seen there, some are using light energy and some are using chemical. We call them as photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs. Heterotropic nutrition is again divided into different categories, which are the parasitic, they live on the host organism, and saprophyte, they live on the dead and decaying matter, and the third one is holozoic. This one we will see in detail next video onwards. Hope you have understood everything. Make note from these slides. If you like the video, recommend to your friends. Thank you all of you.